Hey guys, welcome to On to the Next One. This is a series I'm creating as part of Nights and Weekends Season 3, and this is the first episode. Essentially, in this podcast, we interview some super interesting people, get to know the story of their lives, dive into some of their failures, and figure out how they pivoted from it. All the while, I'll be showing them some super cool magic. This is episode 0 of On to the Next One, and our guest today is someone I've had the privilege of knowing for most of my life. He's a magician, a mentalist, and he's also the founder of a pet care startup that kind of sort of failed. He's a self proclaimed creative entrepreneur and currently works full time in Web3. He's been following his passion for almost a decade now and has pivoted multiple times, so it's safe to say that he knows something about what he's doing. It's a pleasure to welcome Arjun Guru. Arjun, welcome to the show. Pleasure, thank you for having me. Okay, now before we get into anything, let me set this real quick. I have a deck of cards here. I'm gonna quickly mix it up. Just like this. Put it back in the box. Put it on top of the bottle. From this point on, it's not gonna move from here. I want you to watch this and make sure it stays there, yeah? I'm not gonna touch, yeah? Now let's dive into your story. Give me your story in 2 minutes. I mean, it's not a hard and fast rule, but kind of sort of 2 minutes. My story, I think you summarized it pretty well. For most of my life, I wanted to be a magician. I kind of pursued that for around 5 years or so. When COVID hit, that became unsustainable. And that's the first time I had to pivot. I started working on an idea I had in college, which essentially was to start a way for pets to be taken care of when people travel. And I did that for a year and a half. It didn't work out. It wasn't scalable, and a lot of the assumptions we started off with was wrong. So I had to pivot again. I started getting into Web3 at that time. I was super interested in DeFi and NFTs. And yes, slowly started working full time in Web3 as product manager at this company called Kleros. It's an amazing place. Yeah, that's kind of the short version of my story. Oh, nice. What does Kleros do? So essentially, what they're building is a decentralized code. It's super interesting stuff. Think of it as infrastructure for the future of the world. That sounds super fancy. Okay, let's take a break from that for a second. I want you to think of a playing card. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Now back to the question. Clearly, you're someone who's pivoted multiple times in your career. What drives your decision to pivot? Like, how do you decide something's not working and change? To be honest, a lot of the times I did pivot has been out of necessity. Following your passion is great, but whether it works or not is something that is totally out of your control. All you can do is try, right? And the main thing is sometimes, even if you like believe in a vision a lot and things like that, there are times when the world will just push reality on you, essentially hit you with a truck kind of thing. But as a general starting point, if an idea starts weighing down on me, and if I'm feeling burnt out and I'm not waking up excited to solve this problem, that's when I start thinking about whether I should pivot or not and why I'm feeling that way. Okay, I get that, but does that not mean that you're kind of sort of giving up on the idea? It's not necessarily giving up, but rather when you're creating something, whether it's a YouTube channel, whether it's a career, whether it's even getting into a relationship, you get into it with a set of expectations of what it's going to be like and what you're going to get out of it, what you're going to feel, and things like that. Now, once you get into it, though, that's the only way for you to actually see if these assumptions were right or wrong. And in a lot of the times, when you figure out that your assumptions were wrong, you have two choices, right? You can either figure out if there's something within what you currently are in that you can pivot into, or you'll have to focus on something entirely different. So I think of whether there's still potential or if I feel like there's potential, and then I decide to either continue or cut my losses. Let me get this straight. So if you give it a shot and it has potential, then you keep going. But the moment you feel like something's changed and your assumptions are wrong, it's done. Yep, gotcha. So even though this is a calculated move, does this feel Like, I'm assuming because you've created it, doesn't it feel difficult to pull the plug and move on? Yeah, I mean, it is really difficult, especially where if you've built something from the ground up, leaving something behind and being proven wrong by market forces is not something that is easy to handle. So yeah, it is saying that hey, this is not going to work, and I think it's time to let go is super difficult. So when you move on from a project, what does it make you feel, and how do you cope with what you feel? To be honest, I've tried a lot of different things, but I wouldn't say that I've been successful in any of the things that I've tried. I've learned a lot for sure, but at least in the way I define success, it was never met in the things that I did for myself. And working for yourself, you learn a lot of things that you wouldn't otherwise. Now, I have ADHD and my mental health is pretty fluctuating, so I can be extremely hard on myself when things don't go how I expect it to or how I want it to. So, and if I'm forced to abruptly switch or like pivot, then I have, it's very difficult for me to sort of get back into figuring out what to do again and become super depressed. And this is usually the point, this is usually because I'm completely involved in whatever I'm building to the point that it becomes an obsession. And when that, you need to let that go, then it becomes really difficult. Yeah, it's difficult to pick something else and work on. To be honest, for me, when I feel like some of my previous things did not work, I lose confidence to try the new thing. I feel like I'm in a rut. How do you get yourself out of the rut? So oftentimes what I do is I first think of uh, whether my goals have changed in any way, whether the things that I want to do or want from life and what I'm doing, has that changed? And then I figure out a way to go back to my interests. For example, magic and learning about startups and YouTube and content creation. All these things are things that keep coming back to me, and if I stay away from it for a significant amount of time, it truly makes me unhappy. So I start there and then try to figure out exactly what I learned from my previous experiences and then create something new. Oh, that's super interesting. Let's move on to what's happening right now. What are you working on right now? So I'm starting to create content again. This time I want to make sure that I do it with a lot more planning and do it more consistently. In fact, I got accepted into this thing called Nights and Weekends, which I'm super excited to create with. And essentially my goal during this 6 weeks is going to be to figure out how I can rebrand myself and what content to create again. That's insane. I'm creating this podcast for Nights and Weekends season 3 as well. Interesting. Now, before I forget, I want you to think of a number between 1 and 52. Sure. What's one of the most fun you've had with magic? So one of the things with magic is there's so many of these memories, and one of the things that I really like, I'm super proud of is I've always been sort of jealous of musicians because they can do this. They do the flash thing. They put on the flash and then ask people to go da da da, and I've been jealous because it looks so pretty and it really looks like a sky, night sky, and all the stars and things like that. And just seeing that, I wanted to figure out a way to bring that to my shows. And finally, this was right before COVID, one of the last stage shows that I did, I got somebody to think of a song, and then I was gonna guess it, and when I guessed it, I played it on the phone and held it next to the speaker, and we had everybody go like this with the flashes. It was beautiful. Like, I still think of that specific moment, which was around 10 seconds or 20 seconds at best, but it was like a beautiful moment in my head. Okay, this is the last question. What advice do you have for someone who is following their passion? The number one piece of advice I have for anybody who is trying to do something on their own is essentially just start. Like, the only way to learn is to just keep going. And at the end of the day, you're never gonna have it perfect. Like, it's impossible to make perfect content, or it's impossible to start the perfect startup. It's impossible to have the perfect product. But at the end of the day, if you can just push out a version that kind of sort of works, you can keep working on it as you get feedback from people who are watching it, people who are using it, etc. That's what I did with Petcare Gurus. We got to around 500 clients in around a year and a half with no marketing. It's pretty interesting. That's what I wish to do with content creation, even though I didn't do it to that level when I was actually doing it. So when I'm getting back, that's something that I want to do myself. Oh my god, that's amazing advice. I actually need to hear that myself right now. Okay, by the way, Before I forget, you've been thinking of this playing card, and there's absolutely no way I could know what this is, right? What is this playing card? Ooh, is this a magic trick? Three of hearts. Yeah. Okay, and what is the number? Number 7. Would you be shocked if the seventh card on this deck was the Three of Hearts? That'd be pretty cool, right? Let's see. Alright? One, two, three, 4, 5, 6. Damn! You're super close. This is the Three of Diamonds. Honestly, not the Three of Hearts, but close enough. Do you know why though? It's because this deck does not have a Three of Hearts. The only card that's missing in this entire deck, I wish I could show you, is the Three of Hearts. You know where it's gone? Check your pockets. What do you mean pocket? I'm wearing boxes. There are no pockets in it. It's not there in the pocket of the hoodie either. Not that pocket. The pocket where you store food. What? This cannot be. It's crazy.
Yes.
Hi. Do you have a favorite card? Like a playing card?
Four of hearts.
Here's what's gonna happen. I have a deck of cards. I'm gonna mix it up. Yeah. Do you believe in free will? Do you think you have the will to make your own choices? Like I'm gonna deal down the cards. I want you to say stop whenever you feel like it.
Stop.
I'm gonna keep it safe in the box so that I can't mess with it. Stop me at any other point. You could have asked me to keep going, right? But you asked me to stop right there. Let's see what it was. Four of hearts.
What? No way.
So here's the thing. I knew this would happen because I made sure that I didn't keep any other cards in the deck.
No.
It's just
Wow,
the four of hearts.
that's
Damn.
crazy. That was a good one.
Thank you.